upped his St. Louis Blues friend.
Who's a St. Louis Blues friend?
Perron, who just scored.
Oh, nice. All right. Welcome back to the Hockey Princess podcast. I am your host, the Hockey Princess. We got Chris, the old guy. There's a lot of games going on right now, a lot of interesting things happening as we are recording right now. But just as a reminder, if you are going to a game next year, or if you're going to Rockford playoffs, please wait for the whistle. Do not get up while the puck's in play. The bathrooms will still be there. The beer will still be there. The bad food will still be there. I want to say shout out to the two people that sit about 5 rows in front of us in matching Alex Vlasic jerseys that act as our security for Section 330 and telling people to wait for the whistle. Legends, all-stars, big fans. Let's get into it. We got a lot of fun stuff. The second wild card spot for the Eastern Conference is still a hot mess and a half. It's basically a 4-way tie-ish at this point. There's definitely teams that have a higher percentage or more likely to snag that second wild card spot. And then there's some that are still technically in the race, but everybody else would have to lose for them to clinch that.
Well, it probably will be figured out before our episode's over. So
yeah. Like I said, crazy stuff's going on. Other big news, the Arizona Coyotes are being relocated to Utah, to Salt Lake City. A lot of people excited for this. A lot of people not excited for this. I personally definitely feel bad for like the reporters and maybe not reporters that, you know, are affiliated with a major news network. But I don't know, what would you classify the CHGO guys? Because I know Arizona has their own one.
They're just podcasters. They have
but ones were like
an indirect affiliation with.
Yeah.
I would assume you're given the chance to relocate. I can't imagine the pay is all that great.
I can't imagine, like, yeah, it's hard to be willing to relocate for not that much money. So I definitely feel bad for those individuals. I definitely feel also bad for the fans of the Arizona Coyotes. You know, the Blackhawks have been absolutely awful these past 2 years, but at least I know, like, the Blackhawks aren't going anywhere. They're original 6. We could be really bad, and they're still going to play at the United Center. That's not a concern that we have to have as Blackhawk fans. So I definitely feel bad for Arizona Coyotes fans. Any updates?
Well, the way this is going to work out, Hockey Princess, is the Canadians had a 4-on-3 for 2 minutes, did not score. Their game is going to, the overtime is going to end. And before the shootout starts, they're going to find out that it doesn't matter what they do. The Capitals have won. The Capitals have 30 seconds to go. They're up 2-1.
Dang.
So.
Sorry, Kaner. They tried.
Well, you know what they say. That's right. They say Detroit sucks. They do. There's lots of people who say it. I don't think they're really wrong.
Well, as long as the Caps are in and not Sid the Kid.
Yes.
Then
and the funny part is, as I told you, the Dead Wings scored with 3 seconds to go on a goal by David Perron, an ex-Blue player. And it looks like Washington's game-winning goal is going to be from TJ Oshie, an ex-Blues players. So the Central Division is figuring crazily in all of this.
Wild. Absolutely wild. So let's get into basically everyone aside from that last spot has clinched. And like I said before, now it's down to a 3-way tie, but we basically know who's going to end up getting it, barring anything ridiculous. Or is it official now that Pittsburgh's out?
What do you mean?
Like if Pittsburgh wins tomorrow against the Islanders.
Makes no difference. Once there's 7 seconds to go in the Capitals game, As long as they hold on, that's it. They're in.
Okay. So we're going to go through the lineup of the matchups going into the playoffs. We're not going to go super in depth to this, just because we do have some debuts for the Blackhawks and Rockford that I'd like to talk about, but we're going to touch on them a little bit and then get more in depth once we no longer have Blackhawk hockey to talk about.
All right, hold on 1 second, please. Thank you. I know I'm like just leaving.
Wow, so rude. We're going to start off with my first and favorite one, which is the Florida Panthers will be taking the Toronto Maple Leafs out of the offseason. For those who don't know, who maybe this is your first year following hockey, Toronto Maple Leafs, they made it to the second round last year, but they got swept. Before that, they really never made it out of the first round, and it was definitely the running joke of the NHL is that the Toronto Maple Leafs could not make it past the first round. Well, they have to play Florida. And Florida's definitely one of the top teams in the NHL, and they're very strong in the postseason. You know, you got Bob in net, you have immense amount of depth on their roster. We'll get Krusty's prediction once he gets back, but my prediction is definitely Florida's coming out on top over the Toronto Maple Leafs. Second one is going to be the Carolina Hurricanes versus the New York Islanders. I think it's Carolina. One, I'm biased because I'm, aside from Blackhawk hockey, I do like the Carolina Hurricanes because of Tomo Rutu, but I also think that the Carolina Hurricanes are just a very good team, a very, very good team. Also, Krusty, we have two Carolina Hurricanes that made their NHL debut that were up in the booth from Sunday's game. You know, we were like, who are these guys? Two of them did make their NHL debut tonight. I saw the blonde hair and I was like, that's definitely the guy that I thought was Oliver Moore.
Yes, and Tavo played too, scored 2 goals. So
Love Tavo. I don't know why I really didn't see him on Sunday.
I hate to leave you here, but I'm trying to figure out where the heck the Hawks game is.
I don't know, but we're just going to keep going.
Okay, we're going to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's keep going, and I'll try to work on stuff.
Florida or Toronto?
Excuse me?
Florida versus Toronto. Lightning.
I'll always take Florida.
Okay. Second one, Carolina versus the Islanders.
Carolina.
Okay. Next matchup that we've got is you've got your Dallas Stars versus your Vegas Golden Knights. This one's definitely a bit trickier than the first two that we mentioned. I definitely could see possibilities of it going either way. I think Vegas, I think a lot of it's if they're on and they're playing to 110%, it could go either way, really. Vegas is solid, especially if Mark Stone comes back in time. Dallas is also not somebody, you should underestimate. But I'm going to go with Dallas just because I like some of the younger guys. I think Robertson is definitely a heck of a hockey player, and I would just like to see Dallas go forward. Dallas versus Vegas?
Still trying to figure out where the hell this game. I really haven't sat down and wanted to make so what you're going to get, since this is all of a sudden way on the spot, is who I want to win. So I'm just going to go with Dallas.
No, we're just doing lightning, without having to think too much about it.
With the bad taste I have in my mouth over the Mark Stone stuff, I want to see Dallas win.
All right. Next we've got, this is going to be really easy for Krusty and I. Vancouver versus Nashville. Vancouver easily. Really anyone that's going to play Nashville, I'm going to cheer for. Also, and I will definitely be singing a different tune when we become more competitive, but I like to see Vancouver become more competitive because I miss that rivalry. Chicago fans are crazy. Vancouver fans are crazy. That was always one of my favorite series was to play Vancouver in the postseason. So, and they were, they took a big nosedive a couple of years ago. So it's nice to see them back on the up and up. And Quinn Hughes.
I'm not going to bet against Ryan O'Reilly. Sorry.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. This one we might be split on as well. Winnipeg versus Colorado. Based on their current or their most recent mashup, you would think that Winnipeg has it in the bag. I don't think either team have it in the bag. I think if Georgiev continues to play like how he has been, it's Winnipeg's round to lose. But there's also so many people on the Colorado roster that I wouldn't count them out. I'm going to say it's going to come down to goaltending. It's going to come down to Georgiev and how he plays. But I'm going to go with Winnipeg just because I like to see Canada in the postseason.
I am going to go with Winnipeg too.
Interesting.
And the way Colorado's goaltending has been, I just don't see how they win 4 games against a good goaltender.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to need to score at least 3 or 4 a game. And so, yeah, I don't see it.
All right. Next, Edmonton, Los Angeles. Figure I'm Los Angeles, you're Edmonton. With your love for McDavid and the Edmonton boys.
Edmonton, yeah. I mean, I'd like to see LA win, but yeah, I'm not betting against McDavid.
Boston versus Tampa.
Wow, I
think we talked about this one earlier, and you were leaning more towards Tampa. I'm Boston just because I don't like Tampa, and I love Jeremy Swayman.
I am. Yeah, I'll go Tampa.
All right. And last but not least, because it has been decided since right before I asked this question, the New York Rangers versus your Washington Capitals.
Well, that'll be the Rangers.
No offense to the Caps. But just there's something different about the Rangers this year. I think they would really have to do what they did last year in the postseason, which just completely wet the bed for the Caps to come out of the first round. But I think it's the Rangers. That is all of our NHL. Do you got anything else on the NHL scope?
No, the Dead Wings won. Of course, with Patrick Kane getting the winner in the shootout, which you knew was going to happen.
Yeah.
So, way to go, TJ Oshie. I don't think I've got anything else.
All right. Prospect wise, Frozen 4 happened, or the final happened over the weekend. What?
Where are your mountains?
We're a different room.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Can I go in a different room for a second?
No. University of Denver wins it over Boston College. Just as a reminder, Aiden Thompson, Blackhawk prospect, was from University of Denver. So he won over Boston College. Big upset. And, shout out to Denver for not overtaking just one Boston team, but eliminating both of them. After that, Cutter Gauthier signed with Anaheim. Shout out to him also for getting out of Tortorella's spiderweb earlier this season. So yeah, college hockey is officially over. You'll see a lot of guys either committing to go back to their school or signing if they're making the jump to the NHL, like Frank Nazar. But we're going to get to him in a second. As of right now, all of the Blackhawk prospects are currently down in their series, so we might really not have any prospect stuff to talk about by next week. Because Savoie, Ferrand, and Gavin Hayes are all down 2-0.
I'm moving.
All right, 2-0.
I know this isn't legal. You'll really have to start reining me in.
That's not possible.
No, it's not. So you knowing that is half the battle.
That is true.
I need to see if I have Hulu or something. So I'm going to do that while you're talking also. But of course, my mind will be here.
No, it won't. But that's okay.
That's okay. I'm just the sidekick, remember?
That is true. So Nazar makes his NHL debut, but we're going to talk about that when we talk about our Chicago Blackhawks stuff. Jumping to Rockford very quickly, we have another debut. Paul Ledwinski makes his AHL debut over this past weekend with the Rockford Icehogs. Don't believe he's notched a point yet, but that's okay. It looks like he's been playing decent minutes. He's been on the third line with Tepley and I want to say Cates is the other one. It's one of the other veterans. He's paired with.
I thought you said Rolston, no?
Rolston, yes. Thank you. Ryder Rolston.
No problem. See him here. I'm working.
They seem to, he's not necessarily in front of the net from what I've seen, but it's more, when they're in the offensive end, kind of just hanging out on the blue line, passing it to Tepley so Tepley can make the shot. But right now, we're not going to completely pay attention to what he's doing just because it's the last couple of games. He's just trying to get into the feel of things in terms of going from juniors to the AHL. So in my opinion, whatever he does during the end of this regular season and the postseason, it's good enough because, this is his first, dip into professional hockey. And he'll definitely have more line mates come next season once everybody starts, getting sent over to Rockford. Speaking of that, we have another amateur tryout that was signed. Martin Misiak is on an amateur tryout with the Rockford Icehogs. I don't think he'll necessarily play. I think it's very much a sit here and watch how we do things. Unsure of if then he goes back to Erie for next season or if the contract goes well, Rockford being like, okay, come here. I think it's going to be the first one. I think Misiak gets sent back to Erie because as we've been saying all year, what's the rush? There really isn't a rush for people to jump to the AHL or for people to jump to the NHL or even the AHL because right now the guys that are jumping from juniors to the AHL are a year or two ahead of Misiak. Misiak doesn't need to make an immediate jump after doing 1 year at juniors after being drafted. He can have time.
No, and he's a smaller guy, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the AHL is a bunch of men. You don't want him anywhere near that until he has to be. So, but again, he's a sniper, so he's definitely somebody we don't have a lot of his tool set. So
what I do think is interesting is Nick Lardis is also on an amateur tryout contract right now. And I don't think he will be in Rockford next year, but I think it's less obvious. I think it's a little bit more murky for him if he goes back to juniors or if he stays in Rockford than Misiak. But we'll also just see what training camp holds in September.
Yeah, I would assume he goes back also.
I just know because he's a bit bigger than Misiak.
Right.
I know he's not incredibly large, but he doesn't, you don't see him and you're like, wow, he's small.
No, but he's got that lard ass. Oh, hopefully someday we'll have him on. Boy, he can tell me how to fuck off in different languages.
There you go.
Looking forward to it.
Injury update. Zach Sanford is out sort of indefinitely. They had it as for medical review based on a hit that he had Saturday against the Milwaukee Admirals. He didn't finish the rest of the game, and it was kind of just said that he's not going to be back immediately. I don't think that's a cause for too much concern, just because he's not one of the main goal scorers. I think it's a bigger concern if it's a Senny, Hardman, Gust, with Gutman being out, it definitely puts a hole in the roster. Rockford's got plenty of guys. I don't see them having a huge problem with Sanford being out, but also we don't know what it is. He could be out until next year. Friday, Ice Hogs won against the Grand Rapids Griffins. Jackson Stauber in net. I believe I still didn't complete it. I believe it's his 13th straight win. He has not lost in regulation since the end of January. So go Jackson Stauber. You got Michael Tepley and Wyatt Kaiser with your goals. They won 2-0. Saturday, Icehogs lose to the Milwaukee Admirals 3-2. Comesso's in net. And then your 2 goals are from Rem Pitlick and Zach Sanford before he was taken out of the game.
I can move again if you'd like.
No, you're good. You're good.
No, I'm moving again. Come on, everybody.
All right.
We now have found the ESPN Plus and put on the game, and now we have paused it.
Good.
So, and, just
yeah.
So that's my favorite bar. Shut out.
All right, let's get to the Blackhawks. We've got Frank Nazar's NHL debut. Michigan got knocked out of the Frozen Four. I believe it was less than 48 hours later. He was signing his entry level. I learned things this weekend, friends, about burning a year of your contract. It's to my understanding that if you played 10 or less, the year didn't count, you weren't burning your first year. But I learned that all it takes is one game. However, you are not eligible for certain things. Like you can burn a year with 3 games, but because it's less than 10, it doesn't count for certain aspects, be it expansion protection, arbitration eligibility, and there was another. But it's certain restrictions you're not eligible for. You have to have like an additional year, but you can burn a contract with just playing 1 game. I did not know that. So you learn things every day, even if you watch too much hockey like me. But let's get into the games that we had this past week. 1 second.
What games did we have this past week?
So we had Friday versus Nashville. Do we really need to talk about it?
No, we're done talking about that kind of stuff.
Fair enough.
It's been a long year.
It has been.
So let's not talk about it.
No. Sunday was pretty good. I mean, we lost, but I thought we were going to lose 8-1, and we only lost 4-2. And you got the debut of NASCAR.
Yeah. It was kind of a fun game. We got to meet some people from South Bend too before the game.
Yes. We learned that Landon Slaggert is just an amazing person.
Yes, we were told that Landon Slaggert is unbelievable. There are a couple of kids that were on the glass for warm-ups. I talked to their father for a little bit, how Landon has been coaching them for like 5 or 6 years. He goes and reads at their school. He's done school stuff with the school since Landon's been about 10. He's taught hockey. So he is somewhat of a huge legend in South Bend. Not just going to Notre Dame. Landon grew up in South Bend. So we had that fun kind of stuff before the game.
Yeah. You want to talk about the game?
I'd love to talk about the game. Well, we didn't look very good. We didn't get a lot of shots. It seemed like we were going to have more turnovers than we were going to have shots.
We didn't get shut out.
But we didn't get shut out. Frank Nazar had a breakaway. And for the first time in forever, a Blackhawk guy had a breakaway.
And put it in the net.
Put it in the net. Now, I can say this definitely. Number one, Rutu has to come in. It's raining out.
That's fair.
Come on in, Rutu.
That's what Rutu needs.
We have, I believe, besides Connor Bedard, maybe 2 other people that I've actually witnessed had a breakaway and actually scored.
Yeah.
That was the Dick and Colin Blackwell.
Yeah.
I have seen just about everybody else get at least 1 breakaway.
Or pulling chorus, as we call it.
Yes, and could not put the puck in the net. So that was a thrilling moment in the game. We had talked about, as we mentioned, going down for warm-ups and seeing Frank, and Frank's not a very big guy. So,
I will say he's not a very big guy, but I was definitely impressed because, sometimes you see smaller guys and it's apparent on the ice. You see him, how they skate, and you're like, oh, wow, he's small, and the other teams know it and they can take advantage of it easily. It did not seem that way as much for Frank. Like, he was small, but it didn't seem as much of a hindrance as it's for other smaller guys in the NHL.
Well, that's because he's a
linebacker on
skates. Again, for the fans in Blackhawk Nation that are worried about the team size,
you should be.
Yeah, it's a concern for down the road. It's nothing to worry about right now. Gosh darn it, we need people who can put the puck in the net desperately. This is a team that almost was shut out 20% of the time this year. Yes. Did you make a smelly?
No, we used to have them, and they wore the number 12, the number 88, and the number 38.
Yes, but you talk like that, and now you're not part of the program. You're part of the problem.
That's okay. I'm the problem. It's me.
Okay, I ain't doing a little Taylor Swift. I love that for all you Swifties out there. So basically, the Hawks struggle against Carolina. Carolina is an unbelievably structured team. They played well with them until the end. They just don't have the talent Carolina does.
I mean, as we say, literally every game, with the exception of a couple, Mrazek played great. I think it easily could have been 8-1 if Mrazek decided to have a bad night.
Yes. And, that brought me up to my biggest thought is, everybody starts to look at next year and goes, oh, we'll be better. We'll be that. What happens if Peter Mrazek plays like Peter Mrazek next year? I mean, we were the second worst team in the league, and that was with a goaltender who stood on his head most of the season. Can you imagine if he goes back to just being a regular goaltender? So we got a long way to go, but let's not be a Debbie Downer. No, it was great for Nascar. First shot, first goal. One of like 5 Blackhawks to do it. So
yeah.
I believe Johnny was the last one, if I'm not mistaken. No?
David Gust was the last one.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah. David Gust. Okay. Thank you for correcting me. I like to see that occasionally I can be wrong.
They said it on the post-game radio.
I get to listen to the radio, but I got to drive. I got a million things going on. I can't just be, some passenger with nothing to do, la-di-dying and being able to listen.
That's why I listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's my job.
Yes. EDM looked more comfortable. I thought EDM the first period and a half from the Nashville game, it was a struggle, but I thought by the third period he got in tuned. And he looked in tune for Carolina game.
We also didn't talk about that. It was EDM's NHL debut on Friday.
Yes.
So let's say, to those who have seen the tweet that EDM is back down in Rockford, this is not a cause for concern. I think a lot of people were upset and confused and concerned that this meant that, he was basically making a left turn. This was the plan all along. You come up, you play a couple of games, and then you go back down to Rockford. Because let's be real, Rockford really needs you, especially with Nolan Allen out, to go to the postseason. That's all that this was. It was planned. It's okay.
Yeah, it was a way to put some money in his pocket.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to see. Rockford was around here, so it's a quick little jaunt here and then right back to Rockford. So it all works out well. Yes, it's not that he did anything wrong. As I've said before, I'd like to see him and Nolan Allen down all of next year. And that doesn't mean that they don't deserve to be up in the NHL. it just means we're going to take our time with him. Whether we do that or not, I don't know. Just my opinion is I'd like to see him down working together with Comesso for a full year again next year. But yeah, EDM, he looked good. He is what he is. He's a really smart player. He's a physical player. He's a piece. He'll be a piece also. Whether that's a third pairing piece, I really don't know. He's not offensively skilled enough to where he's running your power play and you're counting on him for points. But everything else he can do well.
But in a hypothetical sense, could you see? I don't think he needs to be incredibly offensively skilled, because I think we have so many defensemen who that is their strong point, and their weak point is playing defensively at times.
Well, you've got two offensive defensemen in Core and Seth Jones. So right. You do not need anybody else.
Like EDM could. I don't think he needs to. Work on every aspect of your game. However, I don't think that needs to be a focal point, especially if you're paired with Core, for instance, because he's going to do that job. He's going to be the offensive defenseman. He's running the power play. It's not you. In fact, you're balancing out his weaknesses that he has on the defensive end.
Yeah, and I don't think he's limited enough to where if he's with just some person who's not an offensive player, he's smart enough to understand when he can jump in and when he can't.
Yeah.
So he'll be okay. He's I'm a big fan, so we'll see where it goes. I mean, a lot more to be revealed on everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. But a lot of fun things starting to happen. I try to, I want to be excited, but then I don't want to be too excited because then it follows into Kyle's plan of just focus on the future. But it's just exciting to see the potential that, I don't have to look at these like Joey Anderson and Colin Blackwell for forever. And that's nice.
Yeah, it's not like this is the plan, number one. Number two, the product on the ice now sucks. So you want to look towards the future. So that's just the way it is. If you look at just the present and what it is now, it's very depressing. It's ugly. As I said, this is a team that almost 20% of the season got shut out.
Yeah.
Couldn't score a goal. And that's with the rookie of the year in your lineup. So
it's okay because we're going to get Macklin Celebrini. It'll be fine. But we will not. But as I just wanted to do a real quick percentage drop because shout out to our friend Ben. Oh, wait, I don't have it saved. I thought I did. Hold on one moment.
What are you looking for?
Hold on one moment. There we go. Okay. So just as a reminder, so we are officially finishing second to last in the NHL. That does not then guarantee the number 2 pick for the draft. It's a lottery. May have rigged it last year. They're not going to rig it for us this year. But it all just depends. Nothing is a guarantee. We are guaranteed a top 4 pick. So the percentages for the Blackhawks, it's a 13.5 percentage that we get Celebrini. It's a 14.1% chance that we get the number 2 pick. Your, Parikh kid, your Lindstrom, your Levshinov. It's a 30% chance that we get the number 3 pick and 41% chance that we get the number 4 pick. So it's more likely that we don't get the number 1 pick. But it's all up to chance, but those are the percentages now that we have officially been the second to worst team.
Yeah, no matter what, you're going to get a good hockey player. We'll discuss this more when...
We'll get so nerdy about it, But I just wanted to drop those numbers because Ben shared them earlier today.
Yeah. So, again, it's all part of the plan to be really bad. It'll be just as bad probably next year. And then the hard part comes. It's easy to suck.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. They can say that Kyle had huge balls to trade everybody, but it was still pretty easy to trade everybody.
He didn't trade anybody. There were plenty of people he let walk.
Yes, and there were some that he couldn't trade because he didn't want to and got nothing for, and they're going to the playoffs wearing a Capitals uniform. Yes.
Yeah.
Again, whatever. I'm not going to harp on Kyle. I'm not going to harp on people who are telling me that Kyle is the greatest thing ever. This plan is so unbelievable. It's unbelievable that somebody who really never knew anything about hockey is this much of a hockey genius. I don't need to play all of those games. I could complain about, how people have so many followers and still don't know what they're talking about, but I won't do that either. This is the plan.
Yep.
I give Kyle an enormous amount of credit. He did have a plan. He's sticking to it. The plan was to be awful for probably 5 years. The plan changed a little bit when they won the lottery for the draft last year. And now I think the plan is it's only one more year of stinkies. And then they better start to pick it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. So that's just kind of the way it is. People thinking that things are just going to turn around nicely next year. We'll be in for a rude awakening.
Yeah, they're not. But on the bright side, Rockford's about to get way more fun. And I don't mean good. I just mean it is going to be way more fun to watch in this upcoming season and the following season than before. I don't want to say good, don't want to say bad. Either way, it's going to be entertaining.
I'm hoping good. I'm hoping Kyle's plan works perfectly. I'm very excited to see a lot of the forwards that'll be coming to Rockford next year.
We've been anxiously awaiting.
And we'll still have hopefully a couple of our defensemen die. It's going to be a fun time, as we talked about a little bit. Rockford right now is still, if they make some noise, it's going to be noise made with AHL veterans. Next year, it's going to be our kids learning and coming together.
Yeah.
It's going to be very, very exciting. I'll thoroughly enjoy it.
And on that note, because I didn't want to end on a Debbie Downer note, that is all that we have for this week's episode. We got to go watch the Chicago versus Vegas game. We got one more late night one after this, and then it is done for Blackhawk hockey. Just as a reminder, if you are going to Rockford's postseason, or if you are going to a Hawks game next year, please wait for the whistle. Do not get up while the puck's in play. Do not try to get back to try to leave your seat while the puck's in play. Just sit and wait for whistle. That is all. Yes, Chris, the old guy, you got one more thing?
Maybe, possibly, if Vegas makes it like around, maybe Chris, the old guy, goes to a playoff game. So just wanted to tell everybody that.
Nice.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
No worries. That is all, and we will talk to you guys next week.